Thank you, Eric, and good morning to everyone. It's great to see so many of you gathered here today, joining us in Vienna to engage. Engage really being the theme of this event, yeah? Engaging with Prewave, but also with each other. Learning, collaborating, engaging. At the workshops in the afternoon, maybe at the demo booths that we have outside, maybe partly throughout this keynote, but also at the coffee machines and the after-event drinks. Yeah? All of these are opportunities to learn and collaborate and engage. Now, what is this event about? At Prewave, we have two customer events every year. We have the Prewave Day, which is really the big stage with more than 500 participants talking about the grander product vision and where the world and supply chains are going. Yeah? Prewave Engage, what we have today, is a different focus. The focus is really all about you, the customers, the key users, and your challenges, and what we at Prewave are doing and can do to address these challenges. That's why throughout this keynote, you will see a lot of product managers coming on stage to talk about what they are working on. And this is also an opportunity for you maybe to approach these product managers afterwards, again around the theme of engaging. Now, at Prewave Day, which happened in June this year, we talked about the theme of this year for supply chains. And it can really be surmised in one word, and that is uncertainty. The uncertainty is still off the charts in this year, and it's driven by many developments that are coming together. It's, yes, the Trump administration causing some of these dominoes to fall. The Trump tariffs announced in March of 2025, leading then to the Chinese response of tightening exports of rare earth minerals, putting automotive, manufacturing, energy supply chains under a lot of pressure. It has escalated further last month into really now a semiconductor trade war that has affected also individual companies in Europe and in China, again putting a lot of pressure on supply chains. But the uncertainty is not just coming from the geopolitics between the US and China and the EU, it's also coming from the regulatory side. The omnibus, which has departed earlier this year, has still not found its station. We are still waiting for final deadlines and scopes. And most notably, when we talk about regulatory uncertainty, today we have the EU deforestation regulation, which was already delayed last year. Then many companies took an approach of waiting. We had repeated rumors throughout the summer, well, it's going to be delayed again. And then 2 or 3 weeks ago, well, it's not delayed after all, only for the smallest of companies. And now we have 2 months to get ready. And at Prewave, we are working with a few dozen of large industrial companies on getting them ready for the EU deforestation regulation. And the EU deforestation regulation is really also about supply chain resilience. It's about availability of products for production. And therefore, we are now placing special priority on doing everything to get our customers ready in these remaining 2 months. We made great progress. We have, up until today, onboarded more than 2,000 suppliers in the main commodities of natural rubber and leather. So the foundation is there, but there's still a lot of work to do. But yeah, these individual uncertainties from geopolitics to regulations to trade barriers, all of them make the need for the holistic approach to risk management all the more evident. That is something that we have really re-emphasized throughout this year, is not thinking about resilience and sustainability and transparency as separate things, but more and more thinking about the synergies and having one approach that leverages the synergies between those. We really believe that it will be those companies that can leverage these synergies the most that will emerge as the leaders and that can navigate these uncertain times in the best possible way. Which regulation will be there tomorrow? Which tariff will be there tomorrow? You need to be prepared holistically. And we also see that within our customer base, that more and more of our customers are adopting this holistic approach. What does this mean, holistic approach? It means that 59% of our customers today are using Prewave not just for resilience or sustainability, but for both. And that is a holistic approach where one supplier that we have onboarded can be leveraged for all of the use cases at the same time. And that really gives our customers the flexibility to react. Now, who are our customers? And I want to take maybe a few minutes now to talk about the customers that we are serving at Prewave and what their main challenges are, especially this year. So the top 3 industry verticals that we are serving at Prewave. The first one is automotive. We are serving today more than 15 automotive OEMs, close to 100 tier 1 suppliers of the automotive industry. We also managed this year to expand here more regionally, onboarding some well-known North American OEMs as well. And I think the challenges for automotive supply chains are clear. They are the most global, the most complex supply chains, because the automobile with the scale production is the most complex product produced. That means whatever happens in the world, it affects automotive supply chains. This year, it was particularly the tariffs, but also then the rare earth export bans, which affected our customers. And we are very excited to have Lorenz Kuchler from Magna today with us on stage to also talk about how they are leveraging our newly launched scenario planning module to navigate these challenges and address these challenges. The second of our top 3 industry verticals that we serve is manufacturing. Also here, we expanded our footprint this year, particularly with these large, multi-divisional, global manufacturing companies. The challenges from a supply chain perspective are very similar to automotive with these types of companies. Here we can highlight the semiconductor trade war as one instance that is affecting manufacturing companies broadly. We also see that in our data and with our customers. And here we are excited to have a short statement from Raphael Schmidt from Kercher on how they are leveraging our newly launched supplier status requests to even faster address these risks as they appear in the supply chain. And the third of our top 3 verticals is energy. And energy is actually also a vertical that is very affected by supply chain pressures for somewhat different reasons. The expansion of the energy grid, the investments into renewable energy generation and storage, all of that combines, places focus on high-risk supply chains, solar, wind, battery, storage systems. All of these are also high-risk supply chains that need to be managed from a sustainability and a resilience perspective. We are serving 2 out of the big 4 German energy companies. We onboarded the largest Spanish, the largest UK, and the largest Danish energy provider this year. And we are especially excited about an industry cooperation that has formed in Austria throughout this year. Many of the largest Austrian energy companies came together to align on requirements and standardize their approach, and also launch a tender for procuring a holistic risk management solution, a tender that we at Prewave are happy to win this year. We see that as a clear model for collaboration within an industry, and that's why we're also featuring this collaboration and collaborative approach in a panel as the second session after the keynote this morning. Now, one of the key stakeholders of this industry collaboration is Irene Zimmermann from EVN, and we invited Irene to one of our internal Prewave events where we bring all of the Prewave employees together every year, and we also like to have customers speaking there to our Prewave employees to give the customer perspective. And here Irene emphasized an attribute that she particularly appreciates about Prewave, and that is our ability to listen and be closely involved with our customers and respond to customer requirements. And that is something that we have really picked up as a theme internally, and something that we are emphasizing also at Prewave, making that even more conscious. And reflecting on the motto of this conference today, learn, collaborate, we thought, well, actually it should be listen, learn, and collaborate. Yeah? Because without listening, learning and collaborating is hard, if not impossible. And this is really the theme for the rest of the keynote presentation, is outlining how we're listening to you, but also what we've heard from you over the last couple of months, and what steps we are taking to address some of your key day-to-day challenges. And this ability to listen and take feedback is the foundation for continuous improvement, which is, of course, the focus of any tech company. And this continuous improvement, well, it takes time. Great products are not built overnight, but with continuous improvement, it allows us, and we see this exemplified here with the SpaceX rocket engines, that a product can become more powerful over time, but actually also more streamlined and simple over time. And achieving those things together is what we strive for, and that's also a key pillar of our design principles. And to talk about our Prewave approach to design and customer engagement and how we listen, I would like to ask Gus, our head of product design, on stage. Welcome, Gus.
Thank you, Harald. Welcome, everyone. It's so nice to see so many people, many of which I've spoken to in some form, so it's great. I run the design team at Prewave, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about what we've been up to over the last couple months. Before we start, though, I want to do a little experiment in this room. I really believe I want to know my customers and my users, so if you have never logged into Prewave, you've just seen videos, please raise your hand. Couple, okay, good, maybe 5%. Raise your hand if you have logged in. Aha, okay, now keep your hand up if you use it every week. Okay, great. So what I'm seeing is we have super users amongst us, which is fantastic. So listening takes different forms, right? We listen in terms of analytics data. So you guys have clicked 1.8 million times in the last 3 months. We also take surveys of you. So the surveys are really important. They can be a little, we're trying to make them less obtrusive. They're going to go into the product rather than bugging you with emails. And also, we have these depth interviews. So I really believe in showing our products when they're being built, so we can adjust the design before we build it. So what did we hear when we spoke to you? We heard, frankly, that the experience is disjointed. So when an experience is disjointed, it's pretty hard to learn. And when it's hard to learn, it's hard to teach. So the super users here will know that sometimes it's quite hard to bring someone onto the platform, bring them up to speed. So what we much prefer is this hub and spoke model. Think of the hub and spoke model like the hallway of your home, right? The hallway is probably one of the most important architectural pieces of your home, because you don't need to be in every room to know what's happening in your house, right? This is very much the philosophy. So you have a starting place, an exit, entry points, you can have a dashboard, you can see what's happening, right? So this is very much the vision we want to move towards. So what we're launching is the second generation of Prewave's user experience. So in the coming weeks, I think 2 weeks' time, there will be a new feed redesign. The navigation will be new. In the background, we're also working on the map redesign. We're going to work on the target page redesign. And then this is just the tip of the iceberg. We've got so much planned. I'm really excited. But this is a big task, so we're doing one page at a time here. So let me share with you a little bit what that looks like. Right, so in 2 weeks from now, you will see this new little yellow button in the top corner. It says try beta, right? So if you go up there, you press the beta button, it will jump into the new design like this. This is just the first step, right? But we really need to get your feedback. So if you click the back button, there'll be a feedback form. We can adjust, but this will be pushed to everyone in a couple months from now. But you guys get to see it first. But we're not stopping there. As I mentioned in the hallway metaphor, we really have been investing in dashboards. So why dashboards? What's great about dashboards? Dashboards are really great because they give you visibility. It's the hallway, right? You need to know what's going on in the platform. But you also need to be simultaneously in the weeds, like which individual supplier was, you could do better. Equally, what's the whole supply chain looking like? How do you do that? How do you do that in one design? And it has to be flexible, right? So you have to be able to move, filter, do these kinds of things with it. I'm going to show you 2 dashboards quickly that we've been working on. The proactive resilience dashboard isn't quite ready yet, but we're going to share with you at least the incident response dash and the compliance dash. OK. So this incident response dashboard is designed to help you understand how is your company responding to any given incident. How many alerts did you get in your supply chain? Did your team pick it up? Did your suppliers respond? And what did you do about it? Right? Just because a supplier responds or not doesn't mean you don't do anything, right? So this gives you that visibility of all the way through from an alert to mitigation. The other piece is that you can get strategic. So again, you started in the clouds, you want to get into the weeds, right? So in this example here, the user is filtering by labor incidents. Let's say you know labor incidents is a known pain point in your supply chain. You want to just focus on that. But you can also see how long does it take to respond, right? How long does it take to hear back from a supplier? How long does it take to mitigate? So all these opportunities for optimization, you can now have visibility on and actually zoom in and go, OK, this is a problem area. Let's actually address it. And the final piece of functionality here is that you can then filter by different supplier groups. We call these collections. So, for example, your seatbelt suppliers versus your drivetrain suppliers, or whatever team or procurement team is there. So you really get to be strategic and optimize in a way that suits your own company. OK, compliance dashboards. I'm not going to talk too much about this because we've got Ayla talking about it in a minute, but I am going to share with you the vision of the dashboard. So we know that the compliance landscape is changing. But we've also designed this dashboard in a way that's very flexible. So each compliance topic will have its own dashboard, its own area, right? So one team works on LKSG, and one team works on a different platform, a different compliance topic. So this allows that flexibility. And the other thing, which is this screen grab here, are workspaces, which is I particularly like. So the workspaces are cool because maybe you only want to have one dashboard where you report that data to the European Union. But you've got someone in your team who's very passionate about sustainability, and you want them to have their own dashboard, right? So each team gets their own space, and it's not overlapping. So finally, I'll just add that we will continue to be asking you surveys. So when you see this little yellow box pop up next time you use the product, please fill it out. We really, really appreciate it. It does help drive the innovation and change. We love that feedback. So please continue to engage. So on the theme of transparency and data, I'd like to introduce Thomas Moser, our VP of Engineering.
So yeah, I'm responsible for the engineering teams in Prewave, and I want to talk a bit about the data, alerting and monitoring. We heard about the dashboards from Gus, and now we want to dive a bit deeper into what we listen to, like what we hear from you about the data, about problems and challenges, and what we do about them. But to start, let's look at how our alerting actually works. And at the beginning of it, there is the data we collect. We collect around 4.5 million data points a day. It's mostly news articles. And then it's actually a journey through our system to filter this down to around 400 alerts. And that's where this journey starts for you, where you interact with them, where you create incidences, where you mitigate these incidences. And all of this is guided for us by 3 principles. On the one hand, we don't want to miss anything, so nothing missed. We try to cover as much as possible in the beginning, try to cover all kind of sources, not just the big ones, also the regional ones, to cover all incidences. But then this is, of course, very important for us not to deliver too much. And you see here, it's really a needle in the haystack search, right? We find the 1 out of the 10,000 to deliver to you, to create value for you. And then, of course, end to end, it's important that we do this as fast as possible. So that's kind of what we try to achieve. And in this year, in 2025, we delivered all kinds of alerts. So everything from modern slavery to child labor incidences to an earthquake and merchant acquisition, right? A huge spectrum of different alerts. And altogether, we delivered over 130,000 alerts in various categories. So we had around 8,000 regional events, natural disasters, but also extreme weathers. We had 3,000 cyber security incidences, 5,000 labor actions, so everything about a strike, a demonstration, and labor demonstration, and then 4,000 environmental impacts, just to name a few. Yeah. But we also listen, and that's the theme of this keynote, right? We listen to you and we get feedback from you from various places. Gus talked already about how we try to interact. This can be direct client meetings up to what you report on the platform to our internal feedback loops too, right? We try to get as much information together to understand how we can improve. And all of this feedback is always analyzed and we try to understand what it means, and if we structure it and look at it, and there are two things standing out, and I think most of you will recognize themselves in that. On the one hand, relevance, and on missed alert, which I want to address a bit more detail in this speech here. So if we dive into relevance, I want to start actually with one exciting project we had recently together with one of our clients, Wieland. So they faced the problem that they got a lot of alerts and they created a lot of work on their side. So we really had a joint project trying to try to come to the bottom of this, how we can improve and make this whole workflow work for all of us. And we achieved an outcome where we were able to reduce the amount of alerts they needed to process by 50%. And to get there, it was not really one single measurement, it was really collaboration, trying to figure out how to best work with our system, what are the internal workflows, but also for us to configure the perspective to deliver the right alerts, and also discuss what further can we do, and I will elaborate on this, to improve in the future. And what we managed really is to get this 1,200 alerts around to 560, and really managed to reduce their effort working with our systems. I'm very happy that we managed that. Now, this 560 is still like something where we see a chance of further improve. And I think for us to improve, it's always important to focus on something, right? And this year gives an opportunity, and we see the opportunity to go down to like around 300 alerts here. And I want to talk about two parts of this. Yeah? On one hand, our expert pipelines and then our AI compliance assistant. And if we are looking deeper into this relevance challenge we have, then we see it's actually a big chunk is about these labor actions, about labor strikes, labor demonstrations. And this was the point where we started with this project to try to figure out how can we solve this problem, how can we solve this specific issue a lot of people experience. And from an AI side, our goal was to really create something which acts much smarter, which acts like an expert, right? If you talk to like a traditional model or like just a generalist person, they maybe tell you, yeah, this is a strike, this is not a strike, but an expert really has always more context. An expert provides you, and that's also what our models do now, the newer ones, they provide you with context to the situation. They don't tell you yes, they tell you yes because, yes, consider that. They give you this additional information, which unions are involved, when it happens, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot more behind this, and you get much more confidence into the system if you have this context. And that is kind of the theme of what we are trying to achieve. And right now, this labor action pipeline is live to filter things down. There is still an effort we do to give this additional context to you. So that's a project for us for the next months to give this additional value to you. But it's also not the end, right? There are a lot more different alerts we are covering. There are some other of these pipeline, these experts in the beta phase. So we are trying to cover as much as possible and try to improve the filtering and try to improve the value delivered to you on the information. Now, in a bit of the same spirit, this is also the question, how can we make things better for specific use cases like this L case, G case we saw. And here we really thought, okay, for compliance laws, how is our process? We need an expert in a compliance law. So we fed basically this context of the regulation. We fed a lot of expert reviews of alerts and also some paths of how to handle certain situations together to create this AI compliance assistant. And we have this in the beta phase right now with clients. So we really, again, try to get the feedback to improve on the systems, to improve what we can deliver. And what we see so far is that we have a reduction of like 37% of the alerts, which are irrelevant alerts. So that's a success, but I think the method here is even stronger. And I think with the feedback, we can make it even better. Going towards missed alerts, I think there's a lot of things which can happen that this is happening, but one of them which stands out for me is it's not just that we didn't pick it up in our original sources, it's for us also to associate correctly to a company, to your suppliers. And that can be quite tricky because companies, traditionally, we work with names, and names can be quite misleading. And I have this just as a toy example. This is like 10% of all our Müllers in our system, so they're actually like 10 times more like this. And you can imagine that Müller is a common name, right? If it's written, it's very unclear what is really meant. And for us, this is, of course, a challenge because articles, journalists are not always that correct in like writing the full legal entity name, so we cannot really rely on that. So traditionally, our matching approach was not very accurate, right? It was not so easy to find the right things. But again, the models we rolled out in the last months really have completely different approach. They are not just matching the name exactly. They have a much more fuzzy approach where they really consider the context of the text and try to match it to the description. And in this specific case here, a bit invented case, but you see that the description talks about the product, talks about what the company is doing, and can link it to this text in a unique way. And what this means for us is that we can do two things. On the one hand, we can cover more. We can cover more from companies which maybe have very, in different languages, different spelling, different ways things are written. So we are more broader. We can cover more. We miss less. But we can also pinpoint more exactly what we need and what we mean. And what I see is that if you look at these targets which had troubles, like which might not were found so easily, we could actually increase the coverage by around 80%, which of course reduces the amount of missed alerts we had. So that was really an achievement we had this last month. Yeah, but this is, as I said, for all of these projects, it's very important. And I think you saw also all the feedback you are giving is not lost. It's for us very important that we can structure it, that we can look at it, and that we can learn from it. And that is our mission, to continue doing this and making then the supply chains better one alert at a time. So thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. So yeah, improving supply chains one alert at a time. And let's talk about what happens when you, our customers, get an alert, and maybe even a very critical one that needs to be mitigated. Well, it really triggers a workflow, it triggers a process that's supported by Prewave's key capabilities. First of all, you need to identify the problem, understand that it happens, and the general situation. This is our alerting, this is our monitoring, and more also the situation reports we are publishing for these really big critical events. The next step is to understand how exactly your supply chain is affected and where to prioritize. Which of your suppliers are most affected? You need to start somewhere, especially with these crisis situations. And here the Tier N transparency can help you filter and scope down to the most important suppliers to focus on. And only then you reach out and you start the mitigation process. So these platform capabilities that we say are the foundation of the transparency capabilities of Prewave and also the transparency of the supply chain, they are key. This is the alerting, the scoring, but especially the multi-tier transparency, the Tier N, is really key and is also a limiting factor. Here we are using publicly available data sources like customs data, media data, and throughout these years, we've also received the feedback from you, well, how can we do more here? How can we even find further transparency? What other sources of transparency can be considered? And here we have found a new partner, the SAP Business Network, which is a network of millions of companies collaborating in their supply chain. And we are excited to announce a new partnership today with SAP on really combining Prewave and our core capabilities with the SAP Business Network to launch a new era of multi-tier transparency. And to discuss, I would like to ask Arjun on stage. Thank you. Arjun, Head of Product, Supply Chain Orchestration, and the SAP Business Network. So
firstly, thank you for having me here, right? I think we are super excited for this partnership. I think it's a better together story, and nothing better than meeting your customers and a very good bunch of talented people.
Yeah, indeed. So Arjun, what is the SAP Business Network? Tell us about it.
So at SAP, we believe that no company or no business does business alone, right? So we invested in a platform that's truly scalable, that allows multitude of buyers to collaborate with their suppliers as seamlessly as possible. We run around about $6.3 trillion of annual commerce. We have multitude of trading partner relationships, exponential growth in that space, and we allow B2B transactions to be done across seamlessly different processes. And we can double click on that as we move forward. Yeah.
And how can you leverage that information in the business network and these transactions for supply chain transparency?
Yeah, I think we've invested in business networks in terms of 4 key blocks. Yeah, the first one is, of course, indirect procurement or indirect materials that we've been looking at. So that's the procurement collaboration piece. Then we go towards direct material collaboration. That's where we invested in supply chain collaboration so that you have full transparency of what you exactly can do with your specific suppliers, Tier 1, Tier 2s. Logistics collaborations, we've heard about how can we actually collaborate with different third-party logistics providers. 4PLs is also becoming the new norm. So how can we enable buyers to collaborate and ensure full transparency across their logistics services is the other space that we've invested in. And last but not least, of course, when you think about assets, it's not something that you own only as yourself, right? There's multiple services that directly contribute to this space. And that's where Business Networks facilitates that via asset collaboration.
Cool. And at SAP Supply Chain Connect in October, you announced a new product for SAP, kind of sitting on top of that data, right? Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, we are super happy to introduce supply chain collaboration as well as supply chain orchestration to be actually working together, right? Supply chain orchestration, just to give you a glimpse of what that actually brings on the table. SAP sits on a very rich set of data, enterprise data across the pool. And from Business Network, we have multitude of rich data when it comes to buyers, suppliers collaborating with each other, including Business Networks for logistics. What we're trying to do this is blend this data together, enterprise data with the network data, and ingest that in a very, very semantically aligned manner. What that allows us to do is to sense what is happening, assess what is the impact based on that, curated to different categories, and orchestrate processes end-to-end across the board. And that's exactly the vision that we have. Run supply chains as autonomously as possible in a risk-resilient manner.
Cool. And maybe to finish up, so how does now Prewave play into that, and why did you choose Prewave as your partner for this combining of two worlds?
Yeah, I think that's a very hard question, I have to admit. So firstly, Prewave was an obvious choice, let me put it that way, right? As I said, it was a better together story for multitude of reasons. One, I think you guys are a Gartner market leader in this space, so you know the space, you're working on that. Second, our vision and mission, which is very, very important to me, it matches. We wanted to run risk resiliency and sustainable businesses in the space of supply chain. Your three mantras that you brought onto the table today is transparency, resiliency, and sustainability, right? I think that's exactly where we are trying to go towards, and with supply chain orchestration, that is exactly where we are investing. Multi-tier risk resiliency is the key to actually drive the rest of the story. And how does all of this fit together, as you can see in the slides right now? We want to build a global supply chain network graph. And what does that mean? We want to leverage business networks, trading partner relationships to construct supply chain trading relationships from a product and also supplier standpoint and bring that together. We want to leverage Prewave's expertise in multi-tier modeling and n-tier transparency to go down deeper into the weeds of actually where issues are surfaced, right? To truly bring about that multi-tier viewpoint. And last but not the least, as I mentioned, SAP manages core enterprise data across the board. We launched Business Data Cloud to semantically harness data from across your landscape and also non-SAP data in that mix. And jointly together, when we build out the knowledge graph, contextualizing this in the context of our customers or our joint customers is definitely enriching. And last but not the least, and I'll leave with that, is that wonderful talent pool that you have. And I'm looking forward to collaborate with you guys.
Cool. Likewise. Thank you, Arjun. Looking
Fantastic.
forward.
Thank you.
So yeah, combining SAP Business Network data with Prewave multi-tier data really is a new era of supply chain transparency. And today we are looking really for pilot customers. So if you are and your company is a customer of the SAP Business Network and also of Prewave, please approach us so that we can start talking about how to pilot this. Moving on from the transparency, the foundation, and the data to supply chain sustainability. Now, sustainability, I think, a category that is very much in flux. We at Prewave want and try to be your partner holistically also in this category. We have this year at Prewave Day announced our supply chain due diligence suite, really bundling all of the individual local legislations from the LKSG to the NTA to the upcoming CSDDD into one product offering. That's at the top. Then we have a few topical compliance solutions for the EUDR, for the battery regulation, UFLPA, and also launched at Prewave Day our Carbon 360, corporate carbon footprint, PCF, but then also sustainability reporting add-ons for deep dives into climate risk and biodiversity. So that is our supply chain sustainability product offering and solution space that again rests on the foundation of the platform capabilities of alerting, scoring, onboarding suppliers, tier N mapping. And we earlier this year took the decision to also separate our product management responsibilities at Prewave accordingly, so that we today have a product manager responsible for the sustainability platform and a product manager responsible for the sustainability solutions. And I would like to ask both of them on stage. Ayla, Product Manager Sustainability Solutions, and Daniel, Product Manager Sustainability Platform. Give them a hand.
All right. Thank you, and thank you all for your attention this morning. I know we're throwing a lot of information at you. We're about to get you a lot more, so settle in. So Harald just talked to you about a lot about our sustainability solutions, and in a few minutes, I'll have the pleasure to showcase to you Prewave Due Diligence, which is our thread to bring all of these together into one platform. But first, Daniel here will talk a little bit about our latest updates in the platform, because it is on the foundations of all these core functionalities on which all of our sustainability solutions are built.
Thank you very much, Ayla. There are three main topics that emerge from our conversations with you when it comes to platform capabilities for sustainability. And you can see them on the screen. Relevant alerts, which we will, thank God, skip in this session since our colleague Thomas Moser already extensively covered them. But also two more, the transparent score accuracy and a clean master data setup. So let's begin with the transparent scores. The initial plan was that I will just now announce to you our new product, our efforts towards achieving this goal. But I still think that it is imperative that we talk first about the reason why this is important. And to visualize that, I chose the risk management funnel, the supply chain risk management funnel that I believe everybody in the room knows, that starts from identifying the suppliers contributing to the value chain, to the value production process of your company, and through a scoping, or what used to be called an abstract risk analysis, identifying these prioritized suppliers where we will invest concretely into monitoring and finding particular risks. With this collected information from abstract and concrete scoring, we will collect a 360-degree score and see the risky suppliers, which through the risk analysis, we will further funnel down to the hotspots. These critical nodes, where taking an action will have a significant impact for our organization, remediating the risk, achieving real sustainability improvement. And this is where many would say the holy grail of sustainability lies, right? The fact is, most companies focus on improving this model. But what we notice from experience is that this mostly applies to the right side of it. And we believe there is a small problem with that, namely that in some cases, improving the funnel works only to a limited extent. Why? Because of the garbage in, garbage out principle. A system starting with bad data, with wrong decision, has only one quality all across. It's faulty. It just delivers no meaningful value to us. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, it is so important that we have accurate scoring already at the scoping stage to avoid monitoring the wrong suppliers. Because realistically, what does monitoring the wrong suppliers mean? It means, on the one hand, blind spots. We're missing these crucial cases, these incidents that will end up significantly hurting our operations through reputational damage, maybe non-compliance, but it could also mean the other extreme, right? It could mean huge system redundancy costs where we end up spending precious resources on hundreds and hundreds of irrelevant cases. Or, in other words, cost for analyzing, managing, and controlling the same faulty system that we just talked about a few seconds ago. And here it comes. How do we solve that? I have to admit, I love a good story. So instead of directly jumping into the exciting technical details of what we have built for you, if you would bear with me for a few minutes, I would love to take you for a short trip down memory lane. The year is 1975, and we're at Kodak. This genius engineer that we see here, Steven Sasson, creates the patent for what is known to modern consumer as the first digital camera. Wow, such an innovation, right? Nobody would dare to say that is not an innovation. But if I asked you to imagine the picture this camera would take, wouldn't it look something like this? And that's the reality, right? 100 by 100 pixel resolution image, blurry, but it does the job. And we actually did something very similar back in 2017 when Prewave brought a very important innovation to abstract risk assessment. Our register with 195 countries and 55 industries that also with a similar resolution to the 1975 camera was the first look at supply chain risk. Blurry, but it does the job. I think you get the idea, right? And it did the job quite well, admittedly. It served over 150 customers over the years. For many of the people sitting in the room, this might as well have been the first step towards the supply chain risk management journey of your company. And it was also a partner and a friend in deciding where to invest resource into concrete monitoring. That is why I believe you will understand why, with some pleasure, but also nostalgia, I have the honor to announce that we'll be phasing out this good old friend. Why, you would ask? Well, because why would you want that if you can have this instead? A much clearer HD look into supply chain risk. How does this happen? Well, by moving away from the 55 industries we used to have on the left towards 1,430 of what we at Prewave call commodities. Why are they important? Why does this achieve our goal? Because industries have one major problem. They're very artificial in the first place, right? They're just aggregations that artificially try to mimic reality, and we all know they do not really represent it. If we go with the human rights risk example, the automotive industry would have some mid-risk. Do we really believe that all automotive companies would have this mid-risk? You'd say, obviously not, right? Their businesses are very different, and I have to agree, they're very different on a concrete level. Different policies, different guidelines, different incidents we notice related to this company. But I would dare to argue they're already different on abstract level, simply because they produce different goods and services. And that's exactly how this new model works. We move away from this one aggregate industry towards more than 100 commodities that give us a much more precise look into abstract risk. But as we know, a system is as good as the data it uses. That is why, along this shift from industry to commodity, we proceed heavily investing into actually creating the number. Like this 47 that you see on the screen for palm oil in Indonesia as a commodity related to human rights risk. We have a new model that creates these numbers much better than ever before. How does it work? Well, it starts by looking at the most important occurrences in supply chains as related to the topic. Then it enriches this with sentiment analysis that mimics what real-world supply chain experts, just like you, would believe the risk should be. And it creates a number, a single value that is supposed to represent abstract risk. But we do not stop there anymore. What we do is we proceed with benchmarking against independent expert opinion through third-party service. We gather all this insight, change a few things, and voila, the risk register is released.
Okay, Daniel. Now, these commodities sound really nice and really helpful, but if I have my own purchasing categories, how can I match myself to your commodities?
Yeah, thank you, Ayla, for this obviously prepared in advance question. No, seriously, right? We knew that you would ask yourself the same question, right? Because there's an obvious reason. We are sure that you know what you purchase from different vendors, but the classifications come in all shapes and sizes. Many customers, many of you, use some globally recognized system, like HS, UNSPSC, maybe CN codes. But the fact is that most don't. Most use own purchasing categories, as Ayla just mentioned, internal classifications of what we buy. And obviously, for this reason, we couldn't stop at just creating some conversion table from one international standard to another international standard. We had to make sure that whatever classification you bring to us, we can transform it into Prewave commodities. And this is exactly how we achieve this third important pillar of the Prewave sustainability platform, a clean master data setup. With a new matching model, the last prototype of which you will see on a video on the screen now, and what we will watch is the step right after uploading to the system the typical supplier onboarding document that we're all used to, with the IDs, with the addresses. Now also, obviously, what you buy from these suppliers in terms of categories. Our AI will quickly identify them, will see the unique cases and produce such a table as we see it on the screen, where in the left column, called commodity, we will have visualized your unique purchasing categories, paired with a match of a Prewave commodity. from suggested HS code and a description. What is more, the AI will provide a confidence percentage of this match and will use it to determine whether the match can be confirmed or still needs review like this below. Because admittedly, in some cases, there is no one match that works. There are many potential options. These cases will find in needs review sorted out, but you don't even need to go there. You will have a drop-down menu where you can see all potential matches and select the one that best represents your perception of reality. And just like this, we can proceed to the next steps of our supply chain risk management journey. And you would say, why am I so excited about the data matching model for onboarding? Well, I have been here for years, and one of the major challenges that we've noticed that you always keep telling us about is this master data setup. And also from you, we understand there are two KPIs that matter. The first one is accuracy of the matching. And we're very happy to say that we see that with the new AI model, we arrive at 80% accuracy of good quality matches, compared to just 30% if we would do the same thing manually or with some generally available model. And more importantly, the second KPI, efficiency, we do so much, much faster, moving away from what was previously weeks or months to days. A 7x improvement in time to value, or what this also means, 7 times less effort, 7 times less cost, and 7 times faster insights.
All right, so Daniel just showed you how we're going to set you up for success in Prewave. But once you're in the platform, how are things going to change? Well, today, I get the pleasure of telling you about Prewave Due Diligence, how we're tying all of this together in one big due diligence suite, and our holistic approach toward due diligence. So for those of you who've used Prewave before, you're probably wondering, how does this change things, and what is going to be different? Well, we really took the legislations and a lot of user research and combined them in the design of this suite. We focused on 3 main challenges. The first challenge we heard was how difficult it was to keep up with all the changing legislations and all the legislations you actually have to keep up with. So this is an example of just how one legislation's changed the threshold throughout the years. All right, this is something that we had to respond to, but we understand all of our users also had to respond to. And all this uncertainty made it very difficult to plan, prepare, and even budget for their year. And that is why with PDD, we're committing to providing guidance for our users. We'll do so by linking updated videos, articles, and legislations so you can stay up to date with all the legislative needs that you have on your books. In addition, we're going to provide a guided workflow. This means we're going to spell out each step that you need to complete in order to comply with a certain topic. This takes the guesswork out for you, so you can spend your time and effort on knowing you have the right tasks at your fingertips, and not so much time spending becoming a mini expert in each legislation. But perhaps more importantly, as Gus mentioned earlier, we'll have multiple workspaces. So you can do any due diligence topic that comes to you, all under one master data upload, under one purchase order, all under one contract. So you no longer have to think about reprioritizing your time or your energy or even budget when things change out in the world. So that's how we're responding to changes externally. But beyond the architecture, we're also making a lot of changes to the platform. A big piece of feedback we got was all the tools that users needed to access in order to comply with a certain topic. For everyday users, we know you have to contact suppliers and respond to issues in as little time as possible. So with PDD, we're making this possible. This is an example journey of a compliance user might take. So I will go into the risk analysis and look for suppliers, and then go into the suppliers page to see more details as well as further risk. From here, I could then go to the feed, and this is where I would find all of my relevant alerts and notifications, apply some filters to see what I need to focus my efforts on, and then create an incident or create an action from here. But if I want to review these actions, I go to a separate action platform. And a lot of users were giving us feedback that they were getting lost in the process, not knowing what the next step was, or even sometimes forgetting, letting things fall through the cracks. To combat this, in PDD, we're enabling configured workspaces. What this means is you can configure your perspective to a set of suppliers so that you are only focusing on the perspective, event types, and suppliers that are most relevant to your function. As you can see here, high priority alerts are going to be highlighted. And then you can even do the actions and complete any mitigative risks measures on this page. And eventually, if you complete all of these tasks, hopefully you'll get to a page that looks like this, where you can have the confidence knowing that you are completely done and you currently have no more tasks to do for this legislation.
Does this mean that now we'll just scrap away all the previous products and shift to these dashboards of yours?
It's another great question, Daniel. Absolutely not. So for anybody who's already familiar with Prewave, we're keeping all of these tools because they're very powerful in their own sense. They accomplish the tasks they need to do. The only problem is we need to reimagine how we put this data out into the world and feed it to you. Right, so we're changing where we're accessing these, and we're also reinterpreting this data, so you're getting more information and insights without having to go all over the place to look for them. And the last challenge we heard was how difficult it was to evaluate and grow a due diligence program. Sometimes throughout the year, you want to know how well you're doing or how many tasks you have left, and that's currently very challenging to see at a glance. Furthermore, finding additional values that a due diligence program can bring is a bit of a mystery. So with PDD, we're also looking to give users exactly the vision they need to see how they're progressing toward the due diligence goals at any time and not just the week before the report is due. You can see here, again, high priority tasks are notified as well as any planned actions, their statuses, and any recommended actions based on your risk analysis. Additional analytics will help you understand how you're progressing toward your due diligence goals, as well as cover any gaps that you might have in your process. Beyond that, we're also testing several new data features, such as this one here. It's a little bit small, I apologize. But here we're looking to identify any event or risk categories that you might be most susceptible to at different parts of your supply chain. So different features like this add additional value to see what your due diligence insights can bring to other parts of the company or your role. This is very important to us. So if you have additional thoughts or ideas, please come find me after. I'm around all day. And I'll be very happy to talk about that. So, as Gus, our head of UX, showed earlier, this is the experience we want you to have. Right? We don't want you to try to find what your next steps should be or all the actions you need to take. You should go to one spot and be guided through that experience. With PDD, it should all be clearer, quicker, and bring additional insights so that you can make have the confidence that you need to make decisions for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel and Ayla. And yeah, in the spirit of the event, feel free to approach them throughout the rest of the day and share your feedback about what was presented. Moving on to supply chain resilience. Well, supply chain resilience has really been more and more in focus this year. I think if you look back in the last couple of years, the center of gravity has been quite on the transparency, sustainability side, but this year, due to geopolitics and the tensions, it had shifted again back into resilience. Again, driven by that uncertainty, and it's not just the regular resilience of, well, there's an accident in my supply chain or there's maybe an insolvent supplier. It's on a new level. Yeah, it's on a level of geopolitical conflicts that involve countries, that involve politics. These things change sometimes on a daily or weekly basis, and we need to give our customers new instruments to also address and work with these challenges. And one of those instruments is one that we announced at Prewave Day, which is scenario planning. And that very much fits the idea of working proactively with risks in your supply chains. When we talk about resilience, we talk about two dimensions. Faster time to respond, which is once the incident happened, enabling you to respond as fast as possible to mitigate it. And proactive resilience, which is more the outlook before the event happened. And starting with that, I would like to ask Pyry and Lorenz Kucher from Magna on stage to talk about proactive resilience with scenarios.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with Lorenz to talk about scenario planning. Before I will hand over to Lorenz, I would like to do a little introduction to the concept of the scenario planning before diving into the into the concrete case that we had with Magna. So as Harald mentioned, we are living in a world that is very uncertain, and with the scenario planning, we wanted to start building a tool and offer you something that can help you find stability here and essentially being prepared for multiple different scenarios. When we say a scenario, we mean some kind of a hypothetical event such as tariffs, export bans, shortages that might have a potential to disrupt your supply chain. And you can imagine many more. We can see some more examples here, such as natural disasters. With Lorenz and Magna, we were heavily focusing on the case of tariffs. And the tariffs, they might, of course, be like a broader part of a broader development, just such as the ongoing US-China trade dispute. Probably most of you noticed that there was this 12 out of 10 summit last week that apparently solved all problems, but only for a year. So I think scenario planning will still be relevant because who knows what's going to happen 1 year after. So maybe we will have new export bans, maybe in the worst case even a military conflict. And the question that then remains is, well, how do all of these scenarios together, all of these events together affect my supply chain and especially my direct business partners? Because this is where the actionability lies. This is where you can do something. It is maybe nice to know that I have a tier 3 supplier in Taiwan, but if I don't know which ones of my tier 1 suppliers, my direct business partners are affected, there's not much that I can do about it. And now I would like to hand over to you, Lorenz, to tell a bit more in detail about what was your specific case at Magna with the tariffs.
Thank you, Puri. Over the last months, the topic tariffs in the US gained more and more importance for us at Magna, but also for other global companies around the world. What is easy for us right now is to understand the direct impact. So suppliers that are supplying us outside of the US to our US plants. What is far more challenging right now for us is to identify on the deeper dive on the supply chain, on the tier 2 or tier 3 level, if we have any impact here. So to see products that come into the US to our tier 1 suppliers that are supplying us also in the US. And this is what we are not able to identify right now, but now with the scenario planning, we have the opportunity to see this hidden information and also these hidden costs that have a high impact on the commodity cost level. So what are we doing now with the scenario planning? First of all, we can optimize our scoping, which helps us to pinpoint the most relevant tier 1 suppliers and also has a deep dive from its supply chain. Then we also can increase our resilience, reduce time to action from weeks to days, identify some bottlenecks in our supply chain, and also have some adjustments if there's any important risks. Last but not least, we moved from reactive actions to proactive measures, which helps us. So now we have a proactive risk management where we can identify, first of all, before the risk appear, where we maybe have some high risk in the deeper supply chain, and also find alternative resources and also sources with the scenario planning solution from Prewave.
Thank you, Lorenz. And we don't only have slides, so let's next have a look on how does this look exactly in the Prewave system. So we have a new area that is called scenarios, where we can create a scenario. A scenario is something that needs to have a name here, for example, a pessimistic scenario for the US-China trade conflict. And scenario has events. I'm adding here now an event where US imposes tariffs on everything that comes out of China into the US. And as we were talking about the pessimistic scenario, I'm also saying there will be a military conflict in Taiwan. And once this is configured, we can save our scenario. Once the scenario is saved, we can also see here that we can create like several sort of a pessimistic and a maybe moderate scenario for the same event. When we want to apply a scenario, we're using the already longer time existing exposure analysis, so essentially helping us evaluate which of my suppliers are affected by the scenario. I'm now investigating here just a sample of automotive supplier sites around the world, and I want to know how they are affected by my US-China pessimistic scenario. And once I have configured this, and we create the analysis, we will then first be presented on a portfolio level of, I have here now a bit less than 300 suppliers, how many of them are affected by the scenario on different tiers of the supply chain. And we can then drill down into the deeper details of each of these exposures. So for example, see here what suppliers exactly are in those areas, or for example, in this case, we're talking about tariffs, who are importing something from China into the US, and then still dive in more detail into the very individual nitty-gritty details of the supply chains to see what exactly has been imported, for example, from China into the US by this particular supplier. You can also export these results, for example, for communication purposes with your colleagues who are not Prewave users. Finally, I would still like to announce that we now offer this as a 3-month free of charge trial. You can sign up by scanning this QR code to try out this scenario planning for these selected events. If you don't manage to scan it right now, you can of course always reach out to your customer success manager or account executive, and we will grant you access. I do also believe all of these links will be available in the post-event communication, so you will have plenty of opportunities to scan this. And finally, we are having a workshop in the afternoon where we will dive in more detail into the scenario planning and the whole proactive resilience topic in general, where you will have yet another chance to scan this QR code and continue the discussion. With that, I would like to thank you and invite on stage Jelena, who will talk about the, let's say we now took the proactive, move to the reactive part of the resilience, with the fast times to response session. Welcome on stage, Jelena.
Thank you, Piri. Hello, my name is Jelena, and I'm a product manager in Prewave, and I'm responsible, they say, for many things, and one of them is supplier engagement, but also for the core UX. So if you have any questions about core, please reach out also to Gus and to me as well. And I'm thrilled here to also announce that we have partnered with Raphael Schmidt, Supply Chain Excellence Manager at Kirche, to help us bring this product to life. Now, what is resilience? You may ask yourself, and many have tried to answer this. We look at the resilience from 2 different approaches, the proactive and the reactive one. And my colleague Peter has talked about the proactive part, the part where we plan things, we try to realize what is the truth, we try to stay ahead, but the one that is most complex at all when it happens, the one that we need to be precise, and the one where we need to act as fast as possible is the reactive part. So we can plan ahead, but we really cannot stop disasters from happening, unfortunately. So we've all seen this funnel in Prewave, and obviously resilience also has 2 different dimensions. While you look at it from the time perspective, it's the time to know, the one that we have historically tried to improve all the time, that Thomas has spoken about before, and the additional, the one that is the time to respond. And from the engineering and the product part, when I started to work on this specific topic, and I've interviewed maybe dozens of you even here, you remember me from different interviews, we interview a lot of experts as well. This is where we found out that the chaos, unfortunately, still happens. And this is not just because there's a lot of data flying around. This is because we're acting here with 3 parties. We're playing around with yourself as a customer, person that is using Prewave, us as a tool, and the 3rd party, and that is the supplier. And speaking of the funnel itself, the thing that we spoke about on the latest event was that we want to improve the time to know. And based on the media and how we deliver the news, we average on 2 hours for disruptive events after the media has been published, right? But the time to respond is something that I found out it takes 2 weeks. And think about it. You have 2 hours when you got the news, a flooding has happened, an earthquake, a geopolitical tension, and now it takes at least 2 weeks to actually get to the core of the problem. And this has personally become my mission now, to deliver from 2 weeks to 2 days an automated incident response. But I will now stop here, and I'm thrilled to announce that I will have Raphael talk about what happens and how it happens, and how do they mitigate it in Kerche.
Hello everyone, Raphael from Kerche. Maybe you know this moment. You start your day, quietly sipping your coffee, and then an email lands. Critical alert of fire, or an earthquake happens at supplier X. And from that point on, you know the next few days are going to be uncomfortable. Our immediate process is a verification mission. How and when did we find out? We chase our contacts, send emails, and initiate the internal impact analysis. We inform our stakeholders and try to define the scope. It's a sprint that, in reality, feels like a marathon. The biggest pain is the vacuum of information. You will need a reliable statement in hours, not days. But often you don't get it. Instead, you are battling spreadsheets, chasing the rumor mill, and asking people to focus on collecting data. The truth is, you are forced to use valuable time and also talent just to stitch together what happened. Every day of delay is a significant loss. It costs money through delayed deliveries, and critically, it consumes internal capacity. So you are forced to make decisions based on incomplete or false assumptions. The biggest impact, you are stuck reacting and not acting. The goal is simple: to move beyond knowing what happened to immediately knowing what it means for us and what your options are. That's the difference between surviving and winning in the end. And that's the competitive advantage we need.
Thank you, Raphael. But how are we going to do that? So for this, I want to announce a new feature that's going to be launched by the end of this month. Please, it will be available to everybody as part of the resilience track as well. And for any questions, also please reach out to me outside in the booth and in the workshop afterwards, but I will come to that later. How do we do that? We do that with 3 basic steps. First, we obviously reach out to the supplier. You reach out to the supplier once you get the alert. The second step is the supplier will receive an email, and within that email, there will be just 2 different questions and 2 buttons. And with those 2 buttons, a magic will actually happen. It will have a network effect through the entire platform. And afterwards, we have a sprinkle of an AI where it says the automation. If something happens, we send an additional request. But let's see how it looks like in real life. So this is you casually browsing Prewave and say, it's an alert. Okay, let's react to it. 2 clicks, you will send the supplier status update. After that, we go to another step, and the step is the supplier will receive an email with 2 buttons. One says affected, the other says not affected. Very simple. When the supplier says, yes, I'm affected, it automatically stores the response in Prewave, and it's available to the entirety of the Prewave globally as a status that we call the disruption status. Okay, so you've received now the first level of information. You know that your supplier is affected, which is a key thing. After that, the automation sends another request called the impact assessment, and within the impact assessment, the supplier could answer the additional details as to how they're affected, leave a comment, how long they're affected, and which parts of their businesses are affected. He can also state if other parts of the companies are affected, not just, let's say, Czech Republic flooding in Prague, maybe somebody in Germany is affected. And after that, we're asking them, obviously, to join the platform. So here, we really want the suppliers not to churn through the process by overburdening them with register here, call this one, call that one. No, just press a button, click, and get in. And with that, I want to also invite you to our workshop by the end of the day at 15:45, where we will discuss about how we again want to automate this with the agentic AI processes, because obviously it's not just about what happens at the beginning in the proactive part, it's really what happens after we have to react. Thank you.
Thank you, Jelena. Thank you, Pyry. Thank you, Lawrence, for the resilience deep dive. That actually brings us very close to the end of this morning keynote. I would like to wrap up, first of all, by quickly summarizing what we announced today. Things really, really inspired by your feedback and platform updates on UX 2.0 and dashboards, important improvements on the alerting, relevance and completeness, the SAP partnership for next level supply chain transparency, and then also individual updates on sustainability, dashboarding, the commodity scores, and on resilience, scenario planning, and the status updates. So a lot of things we presented as updates, but there's one more thing. We would like to end on the note of the value, moving from the features again to the value, and zooming a bit out as to why we do it and why your business is using Prewave, because, well, at the end, it is a business, and it is a business decision. To zoom a bit more into what the ROI and the value that Prewave provides to our customers actually is, we commissioned a study by Forrester, a leading analyst in the software industry, and they prepared what's called a total economic impact assessment of using the Prewave solution. They interviewed a bunch of our customers. They calculated a detailed business case, which as an output gives an ROI for a model customer. This model customer has 20,000 suppliers and is a manufacturing company. The ROI or the value comes out of two dimensions. The reduced supplier risk, we could call this the resilience track. So this is the faster crisis response, the proactive addressing of risks. And the second part is, we could call this the sustainability track. So handling your pressures, requirements on sustainability more efficiently thanks to Prewave. So doing more with less. And these are the two pillars for this economic impact and ROI calculation. And for this model customer with 20,000 suppliers, we achieve over 3 years an ROI of 330%, which is a payback period of the investment for Prewave in less than 6 months. Now, this survey is not yet publicly released, and we will actually send out this survey to you as part of the follow-up of this event. And we really want your feedback on that. Yeah, we really want to engage also on, does that mirror your experience? How do you see it? Are there other factors at play? And that actually brings us to the afternoon agenda, because if you look into the resilience track, this idea of going from insight to ROI, also with the framing of this economic impact assessment, is actually the first workshop we have in the resilience track. We will then follow with the proactive resilience session led by Pyry and Thomas, and the crisis navigation on the reactive resilience. On the sustainability track, which starts in parallel after the lunch break, we are starting with EUDR, co-hosted by our partner Accenture, then the decarbonization workshop, bringing together many of our customers and also partners to discuss decarbonization of supply chains, and lastly, the CSRD to action workshop in the afternoon. This morning, after a short coffee break, after this keynote, we are continuing with the due diligence panel on the industry cooperation in the energy industry, something we want to really bring towards a broader stage today, and a keynote presentation from Knut Alicke, Senior Advisor to McKinsey, again talking about the resilience ROI for customers and companies. And with that, I want to say thank you, and I want to again give the theme of keep engaging at the demo booth, at the workshops, and now at the long-awaited coffee break. We meet again at 11 o'clock. Thank you.